everybody. I know it has been a while since I have done a journal flip through because it's been a while since I've done a journal. I've been working on this one in the background. And so finally got it done and thought I would come on here and do a little flip through with you guys. So this one is one I've had in my brain for a while. It's a tribute to the Radium Girls. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but there is a book called Radium Girls. There's a movie about the story. The movie's not as good, I don't think, as the book. But I read the book several years ago called Radium Girls and just absolutely fell in love with the story. It's super sad, somewhat morbid, but true history, American history, and just a fabulous, interesting story. And I think what draws me to that story is, well, so let me give you a little bit of background about the story. The story, Radium Girls, is about a handful of women who, back in the 1920s, worked in the factories, ended up working in the radium factories, and this group of women painted the radium, the glow-in-the-dark radioactive dials on the watches for the soldiers. And so they would take their teeny tiny paintbrushes and they would paint their watch dials, and they would dip their, any of you artists may or may not know, especially if you paint, to get a tip on the paintbrush. So they would put it in their mouth and lip it, is what they call it, to get a fine point, and then they'd dip it in the radium and they'd paint, and they'd put it in their mouth to get a fine point and dip it in. So they were constantly ingesting this radium. This was back before radium was known to be dangerous. So anyways, they ended up ingesting all this radium over the years and ended up with necrosis of the jaw and lots of health issues and lots of dental issues and all that because of this radium poisoning. So it's a fascinating, fabulous story. I will encourage anybody to read it. I'm an avid reader, and anybody ever asks me what book, what's a good book to read, that is the top book I tell them to read. My second top book is Big Magic. Depending on the person, I flip-flop back and forth as to who's my number one. But Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, I've talked about that book on here several times before. Those are my top two, Radium Girls and Big Magic. So anyways, I love the story of Radium Girls. I just think it's fascinating. It's super sad, somewhat morbid. But these handful of women basically sued these radium companies, and after some back and forth, long drawn out courts, again, back in the 1920s and 30s, they ended up getting what today we know as like workers' comp rights, things like that. So this story kind of started that movement to have employers kind of take some sort of responsibility for taking care of their employees. So anywho, all that to be said, Google it, search it, read the book. I think it's great. I wanted to do a journal, but I was back and forth about, man, that's so morbid and so sad, but I wanted to somehow honor these women, and so this is what I put together. I've yet to decide what I'm going to do with this book. I will put in a little side note that it's kind of, I don't want to say serendipitous, but whatever the word is, and again, if any of you have been following my page, my channel, and watched my last studio update, you know that I'm about to undergo some chemo radiation therapy for some cancer, and I actually start that in a couple of days. So it's kind of like, maybe this is my way of dealing with that, is to like really jump into I started this book before I got my diagnosis. And then when I got my diagnosis, it's like, yep, we're definitely going to do this. And so it's kind of serendipitous in a weird sort of way. Because again, I'm fixing to start my own radiation treatment, much safer than what they were dealing with in the 1920s. But anywho, let's jump into it. The cover is, this is a digital image, and I've sewn around it. I'll just kind of go into detail what all I've done. I'm not going to really tell a story with this because, again, I want you to do your own research and read that book because it's a fabulous story. I've covered a regular book, hardcover book with some fabric. It's almost like an upholstery fabric. It's kind of thick with the green flowers. Tied it with just a strip of fabric, the black and white polka dots. On this, so this piece of fabric back here is some eco-dyed fabric that my friend Mary Ellen sent me. And it kind of has a weird necrosis type feel to me. Burnt, you know. Again, it's morbid, but I'm just work with me here. And then I've added some vintage, they're 3D. I've added some vintage clock faces. Now, these don't have the radium or the glow in the dark, but they're vintage ladies' watch faces. So I've added those to the cover. So again, we're tied with just a strip of fabric. And the inside cover, both front and back, again, is some more of this eco-dyed fabric that my friend Mary Ellen has given me. And it just needed to go in here for some reason. So I didn't do any pockets or anything extra. I just let it speak for itself. This is a printed image. Some of the images, it's really hard to find information and images about the Radium Girls because, again, back in the 1920s and all that good stuff. But this is a picture of Grace Fryer. And then on the back page, here's a picture of Catherine Schaub. These are two of the main ladies that were heading up the court cases. These were two victims, basically. And they were two ladies kind of in charge of suing these companies. So, again, you read the book, you'll learn a little bit more about them and their backstories and all that. But this kind of gives you a feel for the era, you know, the pearl necklaces, the lace, the bob haircut. But I wanted those in there. There was a handful of ladies, but these were the two main ladies that the movie and the book talks about. So the paper throughout here it's a cardstock paper, like a watercolor paper, but I've got it kind of splatter dyed with some neon green, glow in the dark type paint. I haven't put this in any of this in the dark. I don't think it glows in the dark, but as you can see, my fingernails are painted. Again, I start my treatment in a couple of days, and so we're kicking this off with a bang. And humor does a lot. So, anywho, I don't think any of this paint throughout here is glow in the dark, but you get the idea. I've sewn and glued lace to the edges, just some vintage lace, random patterns, random widths, and all that. So they're throughout there. Lots of journaling space in here. I've got some dryer sheets that they're dried. I mean, they're washed and dried and all that good stuff. They're used. But I've added some silvery paint and some of the green paint to them. This kind of, to me, has like a ghostly feel to it. And since, these women are done past, that was kind of my thinking. To add a little pop of color, something interesting, and to kind of give a ghostly feel to it. Some regular scrapbook paper. This is got some neon green in it. Again, some dyed paper. This is an image of the factory that I've printed offline. the women all lined up in the factory. You can't see them, but they're painting their dials. I've added some vintage photos throughout here. These are not of anybody that I know, but they kind of went with the time frame. So I tucked them throughout here. This is a little card that I've grunged up with some clocks on it, some timepieces. Another vintage photo of two women. Again, I tried to go with the kind of the feel for that era, 1920s, 1930s. You'll also see these digital images throughout. This is my friend Cindy at Studio Lou. Her digital kit, and I'm not going to say the name because my mind just totally lost me. But it's available on her Etsy. But anyways, it's a kit of some ladies and some flowers and all that. You'll see them throughout here. So I thought that was appropriate for this book. Some ledger paper. There's some silvery type paint splatters. Again, there's silver into this and into this as well. Here's another vintage photo. This was one that I had echo dyed, so you can kind of see the leaf that was here. I've added a little bit of that neon green paint to this. Sewn a little bit of floof at the top. This is a pocket made out of an old film, some photo paper film. I've got a couple of these through here. I put these together during a mask make, I think. I added these little words to them and all that. So I just had them in my stash. I made a perfect little pocket. Kind of gave you the eerie, dark feel. This is a dental image of a tooth. Add a little tuck spot pocket there. This is some Cindy's at Studio Lou, her paper. She dyes her own paper, and this just kind of had a eerie, ominous feel to it. She had sent me this in some Happy Mail, and so we just kind of added a little bit of lace to it and tucked it in there because it seemed to go. Printed off from the internet, a little advertisement about Radium Chemical Company. This is stationery. You can writing space. You'll see the black sewn threads are randomly throughout here, and this is another picture from the internet. This is a picture of the lady painting a clock dial. You can see it. And I've added a little fabric flower there. This is a dental card before digital. When you went to the dentist, they kept up with your information on a digital, on an index card. I dyed it with the little green and grunged it up a little bit. So there's a little journal card for you. This is a tag. This is one of Cindy's ladies. In the background on this tag, you really can't see it very well, but I used a image. I had a dental x-ray image of my daughter's mouth. You can see her teeth there, and that's her jawbone and all that. So again, just kind of gave it an ominous feel. Tag for journaling space. Here's a clock and neon green and all that good stuff. Some more of Cindy's ladies. A little bit of lace. Writing space. Here's the back side of that picture. Again, the ladies sitting here painting their dials. Another one of Cindy's ladies. It's 3 signature book. This page here is a coloring page that I dyed with that green. So you can color on it or you can journal on the back of it. Another one of Cindy's ladies. This printed off the internet, National Primary Standard of Radioactivity. Some sort of sciencey page. An image from, oh, this was on like a postcard. So I trimmed it down. Again, these ladies just had the 1920s, 1930s feel to me. Here is a trading card of Marie Curie. If many of you know, she's the one who discovered radioactive elements, radium and all that good stuff. So she had to be in here somewhere. So there she is. This is a picture of one of these ladies. Now that I was thinking it was Grace, but now that I look at it, it might be, I don't know. But it was, oh, what's the free domain on the internet? One of the images. You can see here she's got her paintbrush in her mouth and basically ingesting the radium. This is Tuck Spot is made from a playing card. Lots of writing space. This pocket's full. This is a poem, Radium Mother. Marie Curie's cookery book is so radioactive, they say, it must be locked in a lead box. We should wear protective clothes, white bodyalls, helmet mask, lead gloves to open it and see. The garlic stains, soup splashes, crushed and stirred and served by her glow-in-the-dark hands. I want to say that this was in a... I've been working on this journal for a little while, so Cindy at Studio Lou has a Patreon, and the first of every month she sends out a good batch of goodies, and I want to say this was in one of her batches. And I was like, oh, how convenient. I'm working on a Radium Girls. So we made a little Tuck Spot pocket out of it. Here is some more of her lovely paper. Here is another one of these dentist cards and another tag. Again, this has a better image of my daughter's teeth, the x-rays. And then one of Cindy's ladies. This tag here. This is paper clipped in Radium and Beauty. A little advertisement by the Radio Company of London. Again, it's stationery. Folds and tucks right there. This is an old photograph that I've attached to the journal. But you can see an older lady here. She's not an older lady, she's a younger lady, but older vintage photo cabinet card, and it's worn from being tucked like that, and I didn't want to dismantle it because it was a neat little pocket, so we just tucked it in the center here. Cindy's ladies. This is a playing card that I've cut up to make a little tuck spot. Another image from the internet, I believe. I don't know who these ladies are. Again, just kind of going with the era, 1920s, 1930s feel. More journaling space. This is an anatomy tarot card. This is the High Priestess tarot card, but I have a deck of anatomy, and so we had to have the jawline and the mouth and all that. Another one of Cindy's ladies back here. And this, another dental card, journal card. And then I did a little video on this. This is a 1920s, you can see the car with the big headlights there. I don't know if you can see it or not. But this is a negative, and I made a little specimen card out of it. The other back side of that coloring page. We're into the third signature. Another one of these tags with my daughter's dental image, x-ray. And one of Cindy's ladies on it. Another one of the pockets made out of the Erie photo. Pull this closer so you can kind of see these negatives, and it's kind of a couple of different strips of photo. 1920, 1930s ladies journal card. Here's another stationery advertisement for Undark Radium Luminous Material. Shines in the dark. The power of radium at your disposal. You can see the little watch faces that are glow in the dark. Moving right along. Here's the other specimen card I made. This a handful of ladies. So hard to see in this light, but it's a negative, so it's real dark anyways, but you can see it better in person. But again, 1920, 1930s ladies. There's one of Cindy's ladies. Another little vintage photo that I had in my stash. Again, kind of the same era. Tucked in this little pocket here. An old vintage photo. This one is another one that I echo dyed. You can see the leaves in it somewhere. Yeah, right through there. I added a little floof to it. Tucked in this pocket with a little tooth diagram. And then here is a smaller version of that image that I've got in a page. The women dubbed Radium Girls painted luminous numbers on watches, clocks, and instrument dials using radium-laced paint in factories in New Jersey, Illinois, and Connecticut. Public domain was where I got some of these images. So you can see them all lined in the factories, painting their watches. This is just a journal card here. And that is it. So, again, kind of dark, kind of morbid. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with this. Right now, my Etsy shop is on vacation because I've got all this medical stuff going on. But it is kind of dear to me because I love this story so much. But, you know, if you're interested, if it speaks to you like it speaks to me, just let me know and we'll work something out. But anyways, thanks for joining me as I flipped through that. Hopefully it wasn't too morbid for you guys. Hopefully you can kind of understand where I was coming from with this. Again, to kind of honor these ladies in this story. And yeah, thanks for joining me. And I'll be back soon enough. I am mostly going to be, now that April is pretty much done, we're done with sadly done with the Junk Journal Round Robin. Cindy's got a few things going on in May, something about a mayhem. I am going to try to participate in that as to the best of my ability, but I'm going to have my own mayhem going on over here, I think. So, but I will not leave you guys. I'm working on a glue book, and that is going to kind of be my art of choice for the next month or so. I'm not really stressing over making any journals. I've got a few in the works, but I'm not rushing through or stressing through any of them, so you won't see very much of that. If you do, then that's great. Anyways, I guess that's enough rambling. Thanks for joining me, and we will see you guys soon. Bye for now.